first third of this cigar is really interesting. I'm laughing to myself because I almost kind of feel like I was a spoiled brat, you know. I've had so many cigars, including that La Excepcion, which is a Cuban cigar. That's why I was trying to explain. It's so unlike Cuban cigars to be like that. Stick it in your mouth and you're like, pow, you know. This cigar is not that type of cigar. And at first I was even like, not a lot of pre-draw flavor, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on, but it's kind of subdued, very refined, which it was. And then the initial light and everything, flavors start coming to life, and as I'm puffing, I'm getting a little happier. Let me tell you, this first third, you can tell when it ends, because flavor just started picking up so much in the last couple of puffs. Oh yeah. A very, very deep, earthy twang, you know, this twang just came to life. And it's a very deep, earthy one. Salt picked up. Spice didn't. Spice is still relatively there. Coffee flavors picked up a lot all of a sudden. And there's some very deep coffee-esque flavors. But on top of everything is the exceptional level of smoothness of this cigar. It's just not getting harsh at all. On the retrohale, through the nose, nothing. No harshness. Very, very nice. That young grassiness in the beginning, that's completely gone. Either it's gone or it's being covered up by some of these other intense flavors. So on the first third, you have what I'm calling very clean, very refined flavors. You can tell what kind of flavors the cigar is going to give off, but they're really not, you know, pumping. You know, they're not pow, zap. They're not hitting you. They're just kind of, they work their way in slowly, and then I'm telling you, as soon as that second third, as soon as that first third is done, that second third opens up, the whole cigar just came to life for me. So the first third, you know, you've kind of a very subtle, refined amount of salt and spice, nothing too powerful. You know, mostly earthy, beany flavors, hints of some coffee-esque type notes coming in. And then the second third opens up and pow, all those flavors just come to life. A lot of extra salt, some deep, subtle twanginess going on. That beany flavor starts, you know, really just getting turned up along with those coffee notes, and it's just delicious right now. It's just delicious. I could stop this whole episode and just let me just smoke my cigar. But we're not. We're going to keep going. And before I smoke my way right into the last third, where were we? Davidoff. So they call in a guy, and that guy happens to be Zino Davidoff. Davidoff visited and spends 3 days with Rivera, trying different blends, discussing every detail of the production of Davidoff cigars in Cuba. At the time, Davidoff wants to buy the factory outright, but it was against the policy of the government, so he can't. Had that happened, much may have been different now. But this is where things we'll see what's going on later. Anyway, Davidoff visits, can't buy the factory, who knows what's going on with that, but the brand is created. It's established in 1969. We do know that Cohiba is already created, 1968, brand is established, although not public. And then all of a sudden, when things are looking so uppity up, 1970, Rivera just decides to retire. Suddenly retires. And this is really where that article in Cigar Aficionado ends. Rivera quotes, "Things changed, so I left. I believed that things had to be done optimally or I wouldn't do it. I went back to the farm to work a piece of property I owned and forgot all about cigars. Things have to be done optimally or I wouldn't do it." That's all he'll say. They posed a whole bunch of questions from different angles. That's the most they'll get out of him to this day. But something happened that he didn't like. Something bad enough to make him want to just get up and retire from then, in Cuba at that time, probably one of the best positions you could possibly be in. I mean, this guy getting picked up by Castro, like this is the equivalent of becoming a rock star at the time. I mean, that's it. You're Castro's roller. You are well taken care of, my friend, you know? But no, he decides to leave. Things have to be done optimally. Now, that's a big hint as to what may have happened, but sadly, Rivera refuses to say more. we will take a look at what we think may have happened, or what I think may have happened, putting all the facts together. Now, at this point, I'm finally going to say it. I know a lot of you are saying, but I thought Avelino Lara created Cohiba. I mean, why wouldn't you think that? After all, the very first issue ever of Cigar Aficionado had an article in it called The Legend of Cohiba, and it was an interview with Avelino Lara, who they credited with being the creator of the Cohiba brand. But that's impossible, because we know now that Eduardo Rivera created Cohiba. So let's see where this goes. It's 1970. Rivera leaves, and La Guido needs a new director of operations. Avelino Lara is that man. It's interesting in that I already said this, but that's what I wrote. It's interesting that in the very first issue of Cigar Aficionado, Volume 1, Number 1, Autumn 1992, in an article titled The Legend of Cohiba, it states that the Cuban Cohiba brand was formally launched in 1968 under the direction of Cuba Tobacco. Under the direction of Cuba Tobacco. Yeah, right, okay. The head of Cuba Tobacco, and then it just kind of skips and says, the head of Cuba Tobacco asked Avelino Lara, head of the La Guido factory, to create a new super premium blend which differed from all previously existing Cuban cigars. Okay, now you're thinking, right? Well, but 1968, wait a second, what? Huh? Now wait, if Cuba Tobacco is asking Avelino Lara to create a new blend, then it's 1970 or after, because Avelino Lara didn't start till 1970. Cohiba is already produced. The blend is established, so why do they need a blend? Here's where I start turning my gears. There is no more information. That's it. We're done. That's Cohiba. That's how Cohiba is created. What is going on? This is so many years ago. The fact that this isn't a well-known, one of the most famous, if not the most famous cigar in the world. What happened? Well, let's start looking at different points of view, okay? Scenario number one. We know that Eduardo Rivera left in 1970 because something happened that he didn't agree with, and we know that Cuba Tobacco is asking Avelino Lara to create a brand new blend in 1970 when Cohiba is already established. Perhaps only Rivera knew the blend and he took it with him. Possible, but not very likely at all, because Castro probably would have just locked him up and told him, you tell me, or I won't let you go, or I'll torture it out of you, or whatever. Or maybe, who knows, maybe Castro isn't that cold-hearted. Maybe he did let him go with the blend, but I don't really think that's it. Plus, you have a lot of cigar rollers making the cigar. He's probably not the only one who knows how to make Cohiba. So let's take scenario number one and go okay, we'll put that to the side. Scenario number two, the something that Rivera didn't like may have involved a change to the blend, as in its current state was too rare to mass produce. Again, you have to remember that it was Rivera, it was when Rivera was there that all of a sudden they started producing 650,000 of these a year. It was Rivera that wanted to call somebody in. They had a brand, they needed to sell something. So it was Rivera who got in touch with Zino Davidoff and called him in. But, so that's probably not it. But we're on the verge of something there. Things had to be done optimally. Let's go further. Number three. Now, this one, at first, this is interesting. I gotta slow down. I'm smoking the hell out of this thing. Very, very good. So, at first I wrote for scenario number three that this one is highly unlikely in my book, but anything's possible. However, the more I put facts together after this, and the more I started looking at the whole thing, the more scenario number 3 becomes more likely than scenario number 1 or 2. The original Cohiba blend was sold to Davidoff, and now they needed a new blend, because you can't sell a blend to a guy and still make the blend under Cohiba and be giving all those out, and if he found out it was the same thing. Let's just take a look at this for a second. Things will come together, trust me. Now, 3 things make me think this, okay? A, Zeno wanted to buy the factory but was not allowed to. Now, at that point when they say no to the guy who's going to put all this money into the cigar industry for them at a time when they desperately need it, if he makes a second demand that they're not going to allow, they're going to feel he's just going to walk right out the door. This is just the way I'm thinking. Now, so perhaps then he said when he was turned down the factory, fine, but then I want that blend. That's the blend I want for my cigars. That Cohiba right there, that's my blend. All right? No blend, no business. So he could have said that after being turned down the factory. B, Cuba Tobacco said, a new blend unlike any other in existence. Okay? To Avelino Lara. Now, during this time, the original Cohiba blend was already in existence. So why say that? Okay, it's 1969. The Cohiba blend is in existence. Davidoff started in 1969. Avelino Lara is being told they need a new blend in 1970. So, if Davidoff bought Cohiba, the blend for Cohiba, well, if it could no longer be used because Davidoff bought it, then they'd need a new blend for the whole diplomatic thing. But things get more complicated than that. C, the forced sale of Rivera's blend to Davidoff may have pissed him off enough for him to leave. So that's another possibility. Those are the 3 things that make me think that, among other things, but the 3 main things. No matter what happened, it's a fact that Rivera created Cohiba, not Avelino Lara. It's a fact that Zeno's first cigars came from El Lagrito. It's a fact that something pissed Rivera off, enough for him to leave. It's a fact that Cuba Tobacco asked Avelino Lara for a new blend after Cohiba was already created, around the same time that Davidoff visited and Rivera left, 1969, the same year that Davidoff was first produced. And former managers at El Lagrito have also claimed that the blend Cohiba Davidoff was very similar to Cohiba, but with a lighter wrapper. That's all they said, with a lighter wrapper. And the bands used for Davidoff were the same bands, the same format used for the diplomatic bands on the Cohiba cigars. We'll show you some pictures right here. Now, there's also this. Cohiba, it is well known, is famous for its unique aroma, smoothness, and flavor due to the filler undergoing a triple fermentation, aka third barrel. The leaves are fermented a 3rd time in barrels for a very smooth, unique flavor that is only known to Cohiba. Now consider this. The blend for Cohiba was originally created by a roller at the La Corona cigar factory, storing away enough tobacco each day for a few cigars of his own. A farmer turned roller, stashing away some tobacco to make a couple of cigars of his own. Now, I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound like a type of guy who's going to be using 3rd barrel fermentation, okay? Not on the original blend anyway. When Castro asks him, well, what do? He's showing him this leaf, this leaf comes from here, that leaf comes from there. I doubt any of those leaves were being fermented in a 3rd barrel process, all right? That doesn't really make sense or sound right at all. So I believe the blend was altered in 1969, 1970 by Avelino Lara, and it was he who introduced the 3rd barrel fermentation process. And Cohiba was thus changed from the original blend. For what reason? Who knows? But Cuba Tobacco wanted it to happen, and so then it happened. Avelino Lara has for a long time been the one credited with creating Cohiba. Perhaps in a way he did, but not the first time around. And like we just said, farm boy Eduardo Rivera turned Corona Cigar Factory roller, stashing away a couple of leaves here and there for his own personal smokes. This isn't the kind of guy who's going to be showing Castro here. Here's where I do my third barrel fermentation. Come on, man. Come on. All right, so that makes a lot of sense right there. It's all very interesting. Cohiba is a very unique cigar, as it is one of the first and for a long time one of the only brands established post-revolution without the involvement of outside companies, e.g. Davidoff, Dunhill. The only other brand that seems to bear similar status is Trinidad. And here's where the soup really starts getting mixed up. Now, here comes more interesting, contradicting information with an air of conspiracy to it. Good place to pause, because we are about to start getting into our final third. Hopefully, I gotta speed things up here. Hopefully, I have enough cigar left for this. Cigar has really, really picked up. Basically, I wouldn't say there were major changes from the first third to the second, only a huge amount of amplification of flavors. Very, very deep, earthy, bean-type flavors, a lot of coffee, even some cocoa flavors coming in now. Hints here and there of vanilla-type notes when the cigar gets hotter. Exceptionally smooth. Little bit of spice, tiny bit, and powerful. Powerful. Good amount of strength to it. I'm definitely medium full. Construction is great. Draw is great. Burn is great. This is another cigar. This is a Cuban cigar that I'm talking. No relights, nothing. This thing just keeps burning. It kind of goes on simmer, you know? You pick it up, take a puff, it's ready for you. I love that. Don't like when my cigar goes out, you know? I was almost hoping this cigar would go out because I need some more cigar for the time. Speaking of which, let's get right back into it. So that's basically our second third. A big amplification with, toward the end of the second third, like I just said, some hints of vanilla type notes, you know, some sweeter type notes, but very nice cigar. Very, very deep flavors. It has a lot of depth, this cigar. And very smooth. Through the nose, it's a bit spicy, you know? Not harsh, but spicy. And a lot of floral notes. Very fragrant. Very, very nice. So, here comes Trinidad. I'd like to comment more and more about all the stuff we just said, but you'll have to rewind because I can't repeat it right now. We are running out of cigar. Let's hope this thing just stays with us for a little longer. Trinidad was established in 1969, same year, Cohiba, Davidoff, Trinidad, also at El Laguido. All three cigars, same place, same time. Now, in an early 90s interview with Avelino Lara, Lara quipped that Trinidad was an ultra-exclusive brand that only Fidel Castro was authorized to hand out as diplomatic gifts. He also claimed that Trinidad was of higher quality than the much-lauded Cohiba. Now, wow, this is fucking getting weird. This is just getting too strange. This is getting too strange because, hold on now, at this time, Avelino Lara is being given credit for creating Cohiba. And in this interview, he bashes, basically, well, not really bashes Cohiba, but tries to take all the light off of Cohiba and says, well, Trinidad is the ultra-exclusive diplomatic blend that Castro himself smokes and hands out, not Cohiba. Why say that? Two sources dispute these claims. One is Adriano Martinez, another player, a former executive of Habanos S.A., and the other is Fidel Castro himself, who, in his autobiography, claims to know very little about the Trinidad brand. He also says that he only gave away Cohibas as diplomatic gifts. Martinez says that Trinidad's were diplomatic gifts as well, so true, but of a lower level. That the blend was similar, but without the third barrel fermentation. The blend was similar, but without the third barrel fermentation. What was it we were just talking about Rivera probably not being a third barrel fermentation type of guy? Probably that the original Cohiba didn't use that. That Avelino Lara was the one who introduced third barrel fermentation. Now all of a sudden Trinidad pops up in between Cohiba and Davidoff in 1969. Trinidad comes out of nowhere as a diplomatic gift with no third barrel fermentation. Huh. Also not available to the public. Kind of a cigar kept in secret. Now, whoa, wait a second. Sounds familiar, right? Let's look at the facts again. Say goodnight, Max.